The desert heat shimmered across the training ground as Staff Sergeant Maria Santos approached the firing line with the Barrett M82A1 cradled in her arms like it weighed nothing more than a feather. Commander Jake Reynolds watched from the observation tower, his weathered hands gripping the railing as he studied the newest addition to his elite sniper unit. Something about her movements caught his attention immediately, the way she handled the .50 caliber rifle with an ease that seemed almost supernatural. Maria positioned herself behind the massive weapon, her movements fluid and precise. She didn't struggle with the Barrett's 40-pound weight like most soldiers did during their first encounter. Instead, she settled into position as if the rifle had been designed specifically for her hands. The other trainees nearby paused their own exercises, drawn by the quiet confidence radiating from the young woman who had joined their ranks just 3 days earlier. Reynolds had been training snipers for over 2 decades, and he had never seen anyone handle the Barrett with such natural grace on their first day. The rifle was notorious for its punishing recoil and demanding technique. Most soldiers needed weeks of practice before they could fire it accurately without being knocked off balance. Yet here was Santos, adjusting the bipod legs with practiced efficiency, checking the scope alignment with movements so smooth they appeared choreographed. The target stood 800 meters downrange, a standard distance for initial Barrett training. Around the firing line, other instructors gathered to watch, curious about the buzz surrounding the new recruit. Word had already spread through the base about Santos. She had arrived with impressive credentials from basic marksmanship training, but credentials on paper were one thing. Performance under pressure was entirely another. Reynolds descended from the observation tower and approached the firing line. As he drew closer, he noticed the complete absence of tension in Santos's shoulders and neck. Her breathing was controlled and rhythmic, her grip on the rifle firm but not rigid. These were subtle signs that separated natural shooters from those who merely went through the motions. In his experience, such instincts couldn't be taught. They were either present from the beginning or they weren't. "Take your time, Santos," Reynolds called out, though he suspected she didn't need the reminder. "Remember, the Barrett has significant muzzle brake compensation, but the recoil will still surprise you if you're not ready." Santos nodded without taking her eye from the scope. Her finger rested alongside the trigger guard, following proper safety protocol until she was completely ready to engage. The wind gauge on the range showed a light crosswind from the southeast. Nothing too challenging for an experienced shooter, but potentially troublesome for someone firing the Barrett for the first time. The silence stretched across the firing line as Santos made her final adjustments. Through the scope, the target appeared crisp and clear, the crosshairs settling naturally onto the center mass. She had studied the Barrett's ballistics extensively during her preparation for sniper school, memorizing the bullet drop tables and wind drift calculations until they became second nature. But theoretical knowledge was about to meet practical reality. Reynolds found himself holding his breath as he watched Santos prepare to fire. Something in her demeanor reminded him of the most gifted shooters he had encountered during his military career, individuals who seemed to possess an innate understanding of the weapon's behavior and the physics of long-range shooting. These rare soldiers could make shots that others would consider impossible, not through luck or extraordinary training alone, but through a combination of natural ability and deep respect for their craft. The moment Santos squeezed the trigger, the Barrett erupted with its characteristic thunderous report. The massive muzzle brake directed the blast sideways, creating a cloud of dust and debris around the firing position. The recoil, which typically sent inexperienced shooters scrambling to maintain their position, barely seemed to affect Santos. She rode the recoil smoothly, her body absorbing the energy without losing sight picture through the scope. Downrange, the target showed a perfect center hit, not just within the scoring rings, but dead center. A shot that would have been impressive for a seasoned Barrett operator, let alone someone firing the weapon for the first time. The other instructors exchanged glances, recognizing immediately that they were witnessing something exceptional. Reynolds walked over to the spotting scope to confirm what his eyes had already told him. The bullet hole was precisely where it should be, with no signs of the wild shots typically associated with first-time Barrett users. He had seen thousands of soldiers fire their first rounds through the Big 50, and the vast majority struggled to hit the target at all, let alone achieve this level of precision. Santos remained in position behind the rifle, her expression calm and focused. She didn't celebrate the successful shot or seek approval from the watching instructors. Instead, she was already studying the target through her scope, likely analyzing the shot placement and making mental notes for future reference. This attitude impressed Reynolds almost as much as her marksmanship, the mark of a true professional who understood that one good shot was just the beginning of a much longer journey. As Santos prepared for her second shot, Reynolds noticed other details that set her apart. Her natural point of aim was perfect, requiring minimal adjustment to keep the crosshairs on target. Her trigger control was smooth and consistent, without the jerky movements that plagued most novice shooters. Most importantly, she seemed completely comfortable behind the massive rifle, as if she had been born to handle such weapons. The second shot followed the first with mechanical precision, another center hit that grouped tightly with the previous round. By the third shot, a small crowd of off-duty soldiers had gathered to watch, drawn by rumors of the new sniper's extraordinary ability. Santos seemed oblivious to the attention, maintaining her focus entirely on the target and the fundamentals of accurate shooting. Reynolds approached Santos as she finished her fifth shot, all of which had grouped within a 2-inch circle at 800 meters. Such consistency was remarkable for any shooter, but for someone experiencing their first day with the Barrett, it bordered on the phenomenal. He knelt beside her position, studying her technique for any obvious flaws or areas for improvement. "Outstanding shooting, Santos," he said, genuinely impressed. "How long have you been working with long-range rifles?" Santos finally lifted her head from the scope, her dark eyes meeting the commander's gaze directly. "This is my first time with the Barrett, sir, but I've been hunting with my grandfather since I was 12. Started with a .22, worked my way up to larger calibers over the years. He taught me that the rifle is just a tool. The real work happens between your ears." Her response revealed the foundation of her exceptional ability. Growing up with rifles, learning proper fundamentals from an early age, and developing an intuitive understanding of ballistics through years of practical experience had created the perfect background for military sniper training. Reynolds recognized that Santos possessed the rare combination of natural talent and solid fundamentals that made truly exceptional shooters. As the training session continued, Santos consistently delivered precise shots at various distances, adapting quickly to different wind conditions and target presentations. Her performance was so impressive that other instructors began incorporating her shooting positions into their own training demonstrations. She had become an unofficial standard bearer for proper Barrett technique within hours of her arrival. The day's final exercise involved engaging multiple targets at different ranges, simulating the complex scenarios snipers might face in operational environments. Santos approached each target methodically, taking time to read the wind and calculate the necessary adjustments before firing. Her shots continued to find their marks with uncanny accuracy, building a reputation that would follow her throughout her military career. As the sun began to set over the training facility, Reynolds found himself contemplating the potential of his newest student. In 2 decades of training snipers, he had encountered perhaps a dozen individuals with Santos's level of natural ability. Most had gone on to distinguished careers in special operations, setting records and saving lives through their extraordinary marksmanship skills. Santos packed her equipment with the same methodical care she had demonstrated throughout the day. She cleaned the Barrett thoroughly, inspected each component for wear or damage, and secured the weapon in its designated storage location. Her attention to equipment maintenance revealed another professional trait that would serve her well in the demanding world of military sniping. Before leaving the range, Santos approached Reynolds to request additional training time. Rather than celebrating her exceptional first day, she wanted to practice with different ammunition types and varying weather conditions. This dedication to continuous improvement was the final confirmation Reynolds needed. He was looking at a future elite sniper, someone who would likely rewrite the record books before her career ended. That evening, as Reynolds completed his daily training reports, he made a note in Santos's file that would prove prophetic in the months to come. Exceptional natural ability combined with outstanding work ethic. Recommend for advanced long-range programs. Potential for extraordinary achievements in operational environments. He had no idea how accurate that assessment would prove to be, or how far Santos would push the boundaries of what was considered possible in the world of precision shooting. Maria Santos grew up in the rugged mountains of Montana, where the nearest neighbor lived 12 miles away and the local grocery store required a 40-minute drive down winding dirt roads. Her grandfather, Eduardo Santos, was a decorated veteran of the Korean War who had spent his retirement years teaching his granddaughter lessons that would prove invaluable decades later. The old man believed that survival skills and marksmanship were essential life tools, not merely hobbies for weekend entertainment. Every morning before school, Maria would join Eduardo on the back porch of their weathered cabin, where he would quiz her on wind patterns, elevation adjustments, and the subtle art of reading terrain. At 12 years old, when most children were learning multiplication tables, Maria was calculating bullet trajectories and learning to estimate distances by studying the size relationships between familiar objects at various ranges. Eduardo's teaching methods were unconventional, but remarkably effective. Their first hunting expedition together became a defining moment in Maria's development as a marksman. Armed with her grandfather's well-worn Remington 700 in .308 Winchester, she had practiced for months on paper targets and tin cans. But hunting presented challenges that stationary targets could never replicate. Moving animals, unpredictable wind conditions, and the psychological pressure of knowing that a missed shot meant no second chance. The deer appeared at what Eduardo later measured as 347 yards, feeding peacefully in a meadow surrounded by dense forest. For most 12-year-old hunters, such a distance would require moving closer or accepting an extremely difficult shot. But Eduardo had taught Maria that ethical hunting meant taking only shots you were absolutely certain you could make cleanly. He handed her the rifle and whispered instructions about wind compensation and aiming points. Maria studied the deer through the scope for nearly 10 minutes, watching how the wind affected the tall grass around the animal and noting the slight uphill angle of the shot. She adjusted the scope's elevation dial based on the range estimation, compensated for the crosswind by aiming slightly left of the deer's vital zone, and controlled her breathing until her heart rate slowed to its natural rhythm. The shot broke cleanly, and the deer dropped immediately, a perfect heart shot that demonstrated not just accuracy, but the kind of precise placement that separated true marksmen from casual shooters. Eduardo's weathered face broke into a proud smile as he congratulated his granddaughter on her first successful long-range hunt. That moment sparked a passion that would define the rest of Maria's life. Throughout her teenage years, Maria spent every available moment perfecting her shooting skills under Eduardo's patient guidance. They hunted deer, elk, and even the occasional mountain goat that required shots across deep canyons at distances exceeding 500 yards. Each hunt became a practical lesson in advanced marksmanship, teaching Maria to read environmental conditions that most hunters never learned to recognize. Eduardo introduced Maria to competitive shooting when she turned 15, driving her to matches across 3 states where she competed against adults with decades of experience. Initially, the older competitors viewed the young woman with skepticism, assuming her presence was merely a proud grandfather's indulgence. Their attitudes changed quickly when Maria began winning matches with startling consistency. At her first precision rifle competition, Maria faced a challenging course of fire that required engaging targets from 300 to 1,000 yards under varying wind conditions. The match directors had designed the course to challenge experienced competitors with targets placed in locations that demanded creative shooting positions and careful environmental analysis. Maria approached each stage methodically, applying the lessons Eduardo had drilled into her during countless hours of practice. The 1,000-yard target proved to be the deciding factor in the competition. Most competitors struggled with the challenging crosswind that shifted direction and intensity throughout the day. Maria studied the mirage patterns through her scope, watching how heat waves bent and twisted to reveal wind direction at different distances. She made careful adjustments to her scope settings and fired a shot that struck within 2 inches of the target center, a performance that stunned the experienced competitors. Word of Maria's exceptional ability spread quickly through the competitive shooting community. Match directors began inviting her to prestigious competitions across the country, and rifle manufacturers offered sponsorship deals that would have been lucrative for a full-time competitor. However, Maria remained focused on her education and continued honing her skills under Eduardo's guidance, understanding that natural talent required constant nurturing to reach its full potential. During her senior year of high school, Maria made the decision that would change her life forever. Rather than accepting a shooting scholarship to college or pursuing a career in competitive shooting, she enlisted in the Army with the specific goal of becoming a sniper. Eduardo supported her decision completely, recognizing that military service would provide training opportunities and challenges that civilian shooting could never replicate. Basic training proved to be a significant adjustment for Maria, not because of the physical demands or military discipline, but because of the dramatic difference in shooting standards. While her drill sergeants were impressed by her marksmanship scores, Maria found herself frustrated by the relatively short ranges and simple techniques taught in basic rifle training. She had been making shots at 800 yards since her early teens. Yet military training focused primarily on engagements within 300 yards. The transition became more challenging when Maria discovered that military shooting emphasized rapid fire and combat accuracy over the precision shooting she had mastered. Her natural instinct was to take time for careful shot placement, analyzing wind conditions and making precise adjustments before firing. Military training demanded faster target engagement and acceptable accuracy rather than perfect precision. Maria adapted to military requirements while quietly maintaining her precision shooting skills through off-duty practice sessions. She volunteered for additional marksmanship duties whenever possible and sought opportunities to demonstrate her advanced abilities to instructors and fellow soldiers. Her exceptional scores on qualification courses eventually caught the attention of recruiters for specialized programs. The opportunity to attend sniper school represented everything Maria had trained for since childhood. The selection process was rigorous, requiring candidates to demonstrate not only exceptional marksmanship skills, but also the mental toughness and fieldcraft abilities necessary for success in operational environments. Maria's shooting scores were among the highest ever recorded during the selection process, but she understood that accuracy was only one component of effective sniping. Sniper school challenged Maria in ways that years of hunting and competition had never approached. The academic requirements included intensive study of ballistics, meteorology, and target identification. Students learned to calculate precise firing solutions for engagements at extreme ranges, taking into account factors like atmospheric pressure, humidity, and the Coriolis effect caused by the Earth's rotation. The fieldcraft training proved equally demanding. Students learned to move undetected through various terrain types, construct effective camouflage positions, and remain motionless for hours while observing targets. Maria discovered that her years of hunting in Montana's wilderness had provided excellent preparation for this aspect of sniper training, as she had learned patience and environmental awareness through practical necessity. Advanced marksmanship training at sniper school introduced Maria to weapons systems and techniques far beyond anything she had experienced previously. The Barrett M82A1 50 caliber rifle represented the pinnacle of long-range precision weapons, capable of accurate fire at distances exceeding 1,500 yards in the hands of skilled operators. Maria's first encounter with the Barrett revealed immediately why Reynolds would later be so impressed by her natural handling of the massive rifle. The final phase of sniper school involved comprehensive testing of all skills learned during the program. Students faced challenging scenarios that required them to integrate marksmanship, fieldcraft, and tactical knowledge under pressure. Maria's performance throughout the final exercises was exceptional, earning her graduation with honors and assignment to an elite sniper unit where she would have opportunities to apply her skills in operational environments. Upon completion of sniper school, Maria was assigned to Forward Operating Base Thunder, located in a mountainous region where long-range engagements were common and precision shooting skills were essential for mission success. The terrain reminded her of the mountains where Eduardo had taught her to shoot, with similar wind patterns and elevation challenges that felt familiar despite the vastly different circumstances. Her new unit was composed of veteran snipers with extensive operational experience, men who had earned their reputations through successful missions rather than training exercises. Initially skeptical of the young woman's abilities despite her impressive school records, they gradually recognized Maria's exceptional skills through daily practice sessions and qualification courses. The Barrett rifle became Maria's primary weapon system, and she spent countless hours studying its ballistic characteristics and practicing at various ranges. The rifle's capability to engage targets accurately beyond 2,500 yards opened possibilities that had never existed during her hunting days with Eduardo. She began pushing the boundaries of what was considered achievable with the weapon, consistently making shots that impressed even veteran operators. Maria's reputation within the unit grew steadily as she demonstrated not just exceptional accuracy, but also the tactical awareness and judgment essential for effective sniping. Her ability to read environmental conditions and calculate complex firing solutions quickly became legendary among her peers, who recognized that they were serving alongside a truly gifted marksman. The stage was set for the shot that would define Maria's career and establish her place in military history. All the years of training with Eduardo, the competitive shooting experience, the rigorous military preparation, and the advanced sniper schooling had prepared her for a moment that would test every skill she had developed since childhood. The record-breaking shot was approaching, though neither Maria nor her fellow soldiers had any idea how dramatically their routine patrol would change everything. The morning of March 15th began like any other routine patrol in the mountainous region surrounding Forward Operating Base Thunder. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos and her spotter, Sergeant Mike Coleman, had been assigned to establish an overwatch position on a ridgeline that provided surveillance over a crucial supply route used by friendly forces. Intelligence reports suggested increased enemy activity in the area, making their mission critical for protecting convoys scheduled to pass through later that day. Maria and Coleman departed the base before dawn, carrying their equipment through rugged terrain that climbed steadily for over 3 miles. The Barrett M82A1 rifle, along with its associated optics and ammunition, added significant weight to Maria's already heavy pack. Coleman carried the spotting scope, range-finding equipment, and communications gear necessary for effective sniper operations. Their destination was a rocky outcrop at 8,200 feet elevation that offered commanding views of the valley below. The climb took nearly 4 hours, with the team moving carefully to avoid detection while navigating treacherous mountain paths. Maria had grown accustomed to operating at high altitude during her months at the forward base, but the thin air still demanded respect. Every piece of equipment had to be considered essential, as the weight and bulk of unnecessary gear could compromise the mission or endanger the team. Upon reaching their designated position, Maria and Coleman began the methodical process of establishing their hide site. They arranged natural camouflage to conceal their position from observation, set up the Barrett rifle on its bipod, and positioned the spotting scope to provide optimal surveillance of the target area. The view from their position was spectacular, with the valley floor visible nearly 2 miles below and mountain ranges extending to the horizon in all directions. Coleman began conducting systematic surveillance of the valley, while Maria prepared the Barrett rifle for potential engagement. She checked the scope mounting, verified the rifle's zero through bore sighting procedures, and consulted ballistic tables for the extreme elevation at which they were operating. The altitude significantly affected bullet trajectory, requiring adjustments to her normal firing solutions. The first signs of enemy activity appeared around noon, when Coleman spotted movement on a distant ridgeline across the valley. Through the powerful spotting scope, he identified what appeared to be an enemy sniper team establishing their own position. The enemy location was approximately 3,200 meters from Maria and Coleman's position, an extreme range even for the capable Barrett rifle. Initial assessment suggested the enemy team posed no immediate threat to friendly forces in the valley below, as their position appeared focused on a different section of the supply route. However, the situation changed dramatically when Coleman observed the enemy sniper engaging targets that were not immediately visible from their position. The muzzle flashes and scope reflections confirmed that hostile fire was being directed toward friendly forces somewhere in the valley. Maria studied the enemy position through her rifle scope, calculating the enormous challenges presented by such an extreme range engagement. At over 3,200 meters, the bullet would require nearly 6 seconds of flight time to reach the target. During that time, wind conditions at multiple levels of atmosphere could affect bullet trajectory, and even minor errors in range estimation or environmental reading would result in significant misses. The elevation angle of the shot presented additional complications. The enemy position was approximately 400 feet higher than Maria's location, requiring careful calculation of uphill shooting angles and their effect on bullet trajectory. The thin mountain air would reduce bullet drag slightly, increasing velocity retention, but the extreme range meant that tiny variables could produce large deviations at the target. Coleman confirmed the range using laser range-finding equipment, measuring the distance at exactly 3,247 meters, nearly 2 miles of mountainous terrain between their position and the enemy sniper. Maria consulted her ballistic data cards, calculating the necessary scope adjustments for such an extreme engagement. The calculations pushed the Barrett rifle to the very limits of its effective range. Wind conditions presented the most challenging aspect of the shot. Maria studied mirage patterns through her scope, observing how heat waves bent and twisted at different distances along the bullet's path. The wind was not consistent across the entire trajectory, with different velocities and directions at various elevations between her position and the target. She identified at least 3 distinct wind layers that would affect bullet flight. Using techniques learned from her grandfather during hunting expeditions in Montana, Maria observed natural wind indicators throughout the valley. Grass movement, tree branches, and dust patterns all provided clues about wind direction and velocity at different distances. She mentally divided the bullet's path into segments, estimating wind conditions for each section and calculating the cumulative effect on bullet trajectory. The mathematical calculations required for such an extreme shot were staggering. Maria had to account for bullet drop exceeding 40 feet, wind drift potentially measuring several yards, and the effects of atmospheric pressure at extreme altitude. She made careful adjustments to her scope settings, knowing that precision at this range demanded absolute accuracy in every variable. Coleman provided final confirmation of enemy activity, observing muzzle flashes that indicated continuing hostile fire toward friendly positions. The enemy sniper appeared to be systematically engaging targets in the valley below, posing a significant threat to coalition forces that needed immediate neutralization. Maria understood that her shot represented the only feasible way to eliminate the threat at such extreme range. After completing her calculations and environmental assessment, Maria settled into her final firing position behind the Barrett rifle. She controlled her breathing carefully, allowing her heart rate to slow until she could feel the natural pause between heartbeats. Her finger moved to the trigger, applying the smooth, steady pressure that had become second nature through years of practice. The shot broke cleanly, with the Barrett rifle producing its characteristic thunderous report that echoed across the mountainous terrain. The massive .50 caliber bullet began its journey across nearly 2 miles of mountain air, following a carefully calculated trajectory toward the distant target. Maria maintained her shooting position, watching through the scope as the bullet traveled its lengthy path. 6 seconds later, Coleman confirmed impact through the spotting scope, observing that the enemy sniper had been neutralized with a single, precisely placed shot. The extreme range engagement had succeeded beyond all reasonable expectations, eliminating a significant threat to friendly forces through extraordinary marksmanship and careful calculation. The immediate aftermath of the shot brought a mixture of elation and disbelief from both Maria and Coleman. They had just witnessed successful engagement at a range that pushed the Barrett rifle far beyond its normal operational limits. Coleman immediately began documenting the shot details for official records, measuring the exact range and recording environmental conditions at the time of engagement. Verification of the shot's success came through multiple sources over the following hours. Forward observers in the valley confirmed the cessation of enemy fire from the targeted position, and subsequent reconnaissance missions verified the successful neutralization of the hostile sniper team. The extreme range of the engagement made immediate battle damage assessment impossible, but all evidence pointed to complete mission success. Word of the extraordinary shot spread rapidly throughout the military community. The 3,247-meter engagement represented one of the longest confirmed sniper kills in military history, achieved under challenging environmental conditions that would have deterred most marksmen from attempting the shot at all. Maria's calculation and execution had demonstrated the absolute pinnacle of precision shooting capability. Colonel Reynolds, who had first recognized Maria's exceptional abilities during Barrett training, was among the first to congratulate her on the historic achievement. His initial assessment of her potential had proven remarkably accurate, though even he had never imagined that his student would eventually set records at such extreme ranges. The shot validated years of training and preparation that had culminated in this singular moment of professional excellence. Official verification of the record shot required extensive documentation and witness statements from multiple sources. Military historians and ballistics experts analyzed every aspect of the engagement, confirming the range measurement, environmental conditions, and successful target engagement. The shot met all criteria for recognition as an official record, earning Maria a place in military history alongside the greatest marksman of all time. The psychological impact of the shot extended far beyond its immediate tactical success. Enemy forces in the region became significantly more cautious about establishing sniper positions, understanding that coalition forces possessed capabilities that could reach them at previously safe ranges. Maria's achievement had strategic implications that influenced enemy behavior throughout the theater of operations. Media coverage of the record shot brought international attention to Maria's accomplishments, though military security requirements limited the details that could be publicly revealed. Her story inspired young people, particularly women, to consider military service and specialized careers in fields traditionally dominated by men. She had become a role model whose achievements transcended her specific military occupation. The technical aspects of the shot fascinated ballistics experts and firearms enthusiasts worldwide. The combination of extreme range, challenging environmental conditions, and successful first-round impact represented the convergence of human skill, advanced equipment, and favorable circumstances that rarely aligned so perfectly. Analysis of the engagement contributed to improved training methods and equipment development for future sniper operations. Maria's reaction to her sudden fame remained characteristically modest. She continued to emphasize the team effort involved in successful sniper operations, crediting Coleman's spotting and range-finding assistance as essential components of the record shot. Her humility and professionalism reinforced the positive image she had created through her extraordinary marksmanship achievement. The Barrett rifle used for the record shot was eventually retired to a military museum, where it joined other historically significant weapons used in famous engagements. The rifle became a symbol of American military precision and technological capability. Representing the combination of advanced equipment and exceptional human skill that characterized modern warfare. Years later, Maria continued her military career as an instructor at advanced sniper schools, passing her knowledge and experience to new generations of marksmen. Her teaching methods emphasized the fundamental principles she had learned from her grandfather Eduardo, combined with the advanced techniques developed through military training and operational experience. Students from around the world sought training from the woman who had redefined the possibilities of long-range precision shooting. The legacy of Maria's 3,247-meter shot extended far beyond its immediate military significance. Her achievement demonstrated that exceptional performance could emerge from any background, inspired by dedicated mentorship and refined through persistent practice. The young woman who had learned to shoot on Montana mountainsides had become a legend whose name would be remembered alongside the greatest marksman in military history. The shot that began as a routine patrol mission had evolved into something far more significant, a testament to human potential, professional dedication, and the extraordinary results possible when natural talent meets perfect preparation. Maria Santos had not only neutralized an enemy threat, but had also established a standard of excellence that would challenge future generations of military snipers to push the boundaries of what was considered achievable in the demanding world of precision shooting.